The microphone screeched as Lauren grabbed it from the podium, her third glass of champagne making her movements loose and careless. The entire ballroom of the Harbor View Country Club fell silent, 200 faces turning toward my wife as she swayed slightly in her designer dress. "You all want to know the secret to a successful marriage?" She slurred into the microphone, her voice echoing off the crystal chandeliers. "Marry someone who pays for everything and never complains." Polite laughter rippled through the crowd. I felt my stomach tighten from my table near the back. "Seriously, though," Lauren continued, her voice gaining confidence from the audience's attention. "My husband, Nick? He's a sweet guy, really. But let's be honest here. He's just the guy who covers dinner." The laughter was louder now, more genuine. I watched as heads turned in my direction, some people pointing discreetly. My face burned as I realized this wasn't just drunken rambling, this was calculated humiliation. I mean, what would I do without him? Lauren's voice dripped with mock affection. Who would pay for my car? My clothes? This lovely event we're all enjoying tonight? Nick Sullivan, everyone, the man who makes it all possible while the rest of us live our actual lives. The applause that followed felt like nails on a chalkboard. I stood slowly, my legs unsteady, not from alcohol. I'd barely touched my drink, but from the crushing weight of public humiliation. Every eye in the room was on me now, some sympathetic, others amused, all of them witnessing my complete emasculation. "Nick!" Lauren called out, finally noticing me standing. "Come up here, honey. Take a bow." I grabbed my coat from the back of my chair and walked toward the exit, my footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet ballroom. Behind me, I heard Lauren's nervous laughter and someone, probably her boss Ethan, taking the microphone from her. "Well, that was interesting," Ethan's smooth voice carried across the room. "Let's all give Nick a round of applause for being such a good sport." I didn't turn around. I pushed through the double doors and into the cool Massachusetts night air, my hands shaking as I fumbled for my car keys. 23 years of marriage. 23 years of building a successful construction company from nothing. 23 years of providing for a woman who just announced to our entire social circle that I was nothing more than a walking ATM. My phone buzzed as I started the engine of my pickup truck. A text from Marty, my foreman and one of the few real friends I had left. "You okay, man?" That was rough. Before I could respond, another text came through from an unknown number. This one made my blood run cold. It was a photo of Lauren and Ethan kissing passionately in what looked like a hotel room. The timestamp showed it was taken 3 days ago. Below the image was a single line of text. "Thought you should know. A friend." I sat in my truck for a long moment, staring at the photo. Everything suddenly made sense. Lauren's late nights, her new interest in yoga classes, her sudden need for privacy with her phone. The humiliation in that ballroom wasn't just cruelty, it was preparation. She was setting the stage for something bigger. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the same unknown number. "There's more. Meet me at Murphy's Bar tomorrow at 8 p.m. Come alone." I looked back at the country club, its windows glowing warmly in the darkness. Inside, Lauren was probably laughing with her friends, basking in the attention from her little performance. She had no idea that her carefully constructed world was about to come crashing down. I put the truck in drive and headed home to our empty house, my mind already working on what came next. Lauren thought she was married to a pushover, a man who would quietly accept whatever scraps of respect she threw his way. She was about to learn just how wrong she was. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my workshop behind the house, surrounded by the tools of my trade, and did what I did best. I planned. By the time the sun came up, I had a clear picture of what I needed to do. First, I needed information. Lauren had always been careless with passwords, using the same combination of our anniversary date and her maiden name for everything. It took me less than 10 minutes to access our shared bank accounts, credit cards, and phone records. What I found made my stomach turn. Hotel charges going back 6 months, expensive restaurants I'd never been to, Uber rides to addresses I didn't recognize, and the phone records. Hundreds of calls and texts to Ethan Cross, Lauren's boss at the PR firm where she worked. "Morning, Nick," came a cheerful voice from over the fence. Mrs. Green, our 70-something neighbor, was watering her garden with her usual enthusiasm for other people's business. "How was the fancy party last night?" "Educational," I replied, closing my laptop. Mrs. Green had lived in this neighborhood for 40 years and knew everyone's secrets. If anyone had noticed Lauren's late-night activities, it would be her. "That's nice, dear. You know, I've been meaning to mention, I've seen Lauren's car leaving quite late some nights recently. I hope everything's all right." I kept my voice casual. "Oh, you know how it is. Work events, girls' nights out." "When did you notice this?" "Well, just last Tuesday she left around 10 at night and didn't come back until nearly 3 in the morning. And then Thursday, same thing. I only notice because I'm up with my arthritis, you understand." Tuesday and Thursday. I checked my phone records. Both nights showed extensive texting with Ethan until well past midnight. "I'm sure it's nothing to worry about," Mrs. Green continued, but her tone suggested otherwise. "Though I did see a man dropping her off one evening when you were out of town last month. Tall fellow, expensive car. I thought maybe it was a work colleague." "Probably," I said, my jaw clenched. "Thanks for keeping an eye out, Mrs. Green." "Of course, dear. We neighbors have to look out for each other." I spent the rest of the day going through Lauren's things while she was at work. Hidden in her gym bag, I found a second phone, one I'd never seen before. The battery was dead, but I had chargers for every device imaginable in my workshop. When it powered up, I hit the jackpot. Months of explicit texts with Ethan. Photos I didn't want to see. But most damaging of all were the conversations about me. "He's so clueless," Lauren had written just 2 weeks ago. "I could probably rob a bank and he'd apologize for not driving the getaway car." Ethan's response, "Poor bastard." Though I have to admit, his money does make our dates more interesting. That hotel in Boston wasn't cheap. "Don't worry about Nick," Lauren replied. "He'll keep paying for everything right up until I file for divorce. My lawyer says I can get at least half of everything, maybe more if I play it right." "What about last night's little show at the club?" "Perfect, right?" I'm building a case that he's emotionally distant and unsupportive. The more witnesses I have to his neglect, the better my settlement will be. I set the phone down carefully, my hands trembling with rage. This wasn't just an affair. It was a calculated plan to destroy me financially and emotionally. Lauren had been playing a long game, and I was the mark, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated the man she'd been living with for over 2 decades. I heard Lauren's car pull into the driveway around 6 o'clock. I quickly put her second phone back where I'd found it and returned to my workshop, pretending to organize tools. "Nick!" she called from the house. "Are you out there?" "Just finishing up," I called back, my voice steady despite the fury burning in my chest. She appeared in the doorway of the workshop, still in her work clothes, looking tired and slightly hungover from the night before. "About last night," she started, but there was no apology in her tone. "I hope you're not being dramatic about a little joke. Everyone knows I was just having fun." "Is that what you call it?" "Oh, come on. You've always been too sensitive about these things. It's not like I said anything that wasn't true." I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. When had she become this person? When had the woman I'd married turned into someone who could humiliate me in public and then dismiss my feelings as being too sensitive? "You're right," I said finally. "I probably am too sensitive." She seemed relieved by my response. "Good. I'm glad you understand. Now, what do you want to do about dinner? I was thinking we could try that new Italian place downtown." "Actually, I have plans tonight. Meeting Marty for a drink." "Oh." She looked disappointed, but not devastated. probably relieved to have the evening free for other activities. Well, have fun. Don't wait up for me. I might go out with the girls after my yoga class. Yoga class? Right. Have a good time, I said, and I meant it. Because while she was out with the girls, I'd be learning exactly how deep this betrayal went. At 8 o'clock sharp, I walked into Murphy's bar, a blue-collar dive about as far from Lauren's usual haunts as you could get in our town. The mysterious texter was easy to spot. A woman in her 30s sitting alone in a corner booth, nervously checking her phone. "Are you Nick?" she asked as I approached. "Depends on who's asking." "My name is Sarah Mitchell. I work at the Harbor View Country Club. I was working the event last night." I sat down across from her. "You sent me those photos?" She nodded, looking uncomfortable. "I've been working events there for 3 years. Your wife and her boss, they're not exactly discreet. Last night was just the final straw." "Why are you telling me this?" Sarah's eyes flashed with anger. "Because I'm tired of watching people like them treat good people like garbage. You seem like a decent guy, and what she did to you last night was cruel. Plus..." She hesitated. "Plus what?" "My sister went through something similar. Her husband was cheating with his secretary, and she had no idea until it was too late. Lost everything in the divorce because she wasn't prepared." She slid a manila envelope across the table. "There are more photos in there, dates, times, locations. I've been documenting their meetings for weeks." I opened the envelope. Dozens of photos of Lauren and Ethan at various hotels, restaurants, and other locations around town. The evidence was overwhelming. "Thank you," I said quietly. "What are you going to do?" I looked at the photos one more time, then closed the envelope. "I'm going to show my wife exactly what happens when you underestimate the guy who covers dinner." The next morning, I was up before dawn, implementing phase 1 of my plan. Lauren was still asleep, exhausted from her late-night yoga session that had kept her out until 2 a.m. My first stop was the bank. 23 years of marriage meant joint accounts, but it also meant I knew every detail of our financial situation. I transferred half of our savings into a new account in my name only, perfectly legal since it was community property. The other half I left untouched. I wasn't trying to steal from her. I was protecting myself. Next, I visited our lawyer, Jim Morrison, not the rock star, as he liked to joke, but a sharp attorney who'd handled my business contracts for years. I brought the envelope Sarah had given me, along with printouts from Lauren's secret phone. "Jesus, Nick," Jim whistled as he reviewed the evidence. "This is pretty damning stuff. How do you want to handle it?" "Carefully. I don't want to tip my hand too early, but I want to be protected when this all comes out." "Smart thinking. I'll start drawing up paperwork for a legal separation just in case. And I'd recommend changing the locks on any properties that are solely in your name. The house is joint, but the workshop and the company building are mine." "Good. I'll also prepare a post-nuptial agreement that protects your business assets. If she signs it willingly, great. If not, well, this evidence suggests she's been planning to defraud you in a divorce proceeding, which could affect any settlement." I left Jim's office feeling more in control than I had in months. Lauren thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. She was about to learn that I'd been playing chess all along. I'd just been letting her think she was winning. My phone rang as I was driving to the job site. Lauren's name flashed on the screen. "Hey, honey," she said, her voice sweet as poison. "I tried to use my credit card this morning and it was declined. Must be some kind of mistake." That's weird. "Which card?" "The Visa. I was trying to buy some new workout clothes. The Visa that had been used for 6 months of hotel rooms with Ethan. I'll call the bank and check on it. Probably just a security hold or something." "Could you do that today? I really need those clothes for my class tonight." "Of course. Anything for you, sweetheart." I hung up and immediately called the credit card company to report suspicious activity on the account. It wasn't technically a lie. Lauren's activities were definitely suspicious. The card would be frozen pending investigation, which could take several days. At the job site, Marty was waiting for me with coffee and a concerned expression. "You look like hell, boss. Rough night?" "You could say that. Marty, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Shoot. How long have people been talking about Lauren and me?" "About our marriage?" Marty's face fell. He'd been with my company for 8 years, and I trusted him more than almost anyone. "Nick, I don't know if... Please. I need to know." He sighed heavily. "A while now. Maybe 6 months? The guys have been saying things, but I always shut it down, figured it wasn't our business." "What kind of things?" "Just that she doesn't seem to respect you much. The way she talks to you at company events, always making jokes at your expense. And then there were rumors about her and some guy from her work." "Did you believe the rumors?" "I hoped they weren't true. But after last night..." He shook his head. "That was rough, man. Nobody should have to go through that in public. Well, it's about to get a lot more interesting." I spent the day working alongside my crew, losing myself in the familiar rhythm of construction work. There was something honest about building things with your hands, something pure that Lauren's world of PR and social manipulation couldn't touch. Around 3 o'clock, my phone buzzed with a text from Lauren. "Bank says there's no problem with the card. They said you put a fraud alert on it. What's going on?" I typed back, "Just being cautious. There's been some unusual activity on our accounts lately. Better safe than sorry." "What kind of unusual activity?" "Hotel charges, expensive dinners, things like that. Probably identity theft. I'm having Jim look into it." There was a long pause before her next message. "That seems like an overreaction." "Maybe. But my accountant always says to take financial security seriously. Don't worry about it, I'm sure it'll all get sorted out soon." I could practically feel her panic through the phone. She was smart enough to know that if Jim started digging into our finances, he'd find evidence of her affair. But she couldn't object too strongly without seeming suspicious. At 5 o'clock, I got a call from an unknown number. "Nick Sullivan? This is Ethan Cross. I think we need to talk." I almost laughed. "Do we?" "About what?" "I think you know." "Can we meet somewhere private?" "How about Murphy's Bar?" 7 o'clock. "That's a bit public, isn't it?" "Not really. It's not exactly your usual crowd, Ethan. I think you'll find it very private." There was a pause. "Fine." 7 o'clock. I arrived at Murphy's at 6:45 and took the same booth Sarah and I had used the night before. The bar was nearly empty, except for a few regulars watching baseball on the old TV above the bar. Ethan walked in at exactly 7, looking completely out of place in his expensive suit and Italian shoes. He spotted me immediately and walked over, his confidence clearly forced. "Nick," he said, extending his hand. "Thanks for meeting me." I didn't shake his hand. "Sit down, Ethan." He sat across from me, fidgeting with his cufflinks. "Look, I think there might be some misunderstanding." "About what?" "About you sleeping with my wife for the past 6 months? About the two of you planning to take me for everything I'm worth in a divorce? About Lauren humiliating me in public to build a case for emotional neglect?" His face went pale. "I don't know what you think you know." I slid one of Sarah's photos across the table. It showed him and Lauren kissing in the parking lot of the Harbor View Country Club, just hours before the event where she'd humiliated me. "I know everything, Ethan. The question is, what are we going to do about it?" He stared at the photo for a long moment, then looked up at me with what might have been respect. "What do you want?" "I want you to understand something very clearly. You've been playing games with my life, my marriage, and my money. That stops now." "And if it doesn't?" I leaned forward. "Then you'll discover that the guy who covers dinner is also the guy who built a successful business from nothing, who knows every contractor, supplier, and city official in this town, and who has a lot more friends than you might think. Are you threatening me? I'm educating you. This is a small town, Ethan. Reputations matter. Business relationships matter. And right now, you're on the wrong side of both. I stood up to leave, then turned back. Oh, and Ethan? Lauren's credit cards have been frozen due to suspicious activity. Looks like you'll be covering dinner for a while. His mouth fell open as I walked away, leaving him alone with the photo and the slowly dawning realization that his comfortable little affair had just become very complicated. The next few days passed in a carefully orchestrated dance of normalcy. Lauren grew increasingly frustrated with the banking issues that kept her cards frozen, while I maintained my helpful, concerned husband act. She had no idea that I was systematically documenting every lie she told, every yoga class that was actually a rendezvous with Ethan. The breaking point came on Friday night at what should have been a routine dinner with our oldest friends, Mark and Jennifer Walsh. We'd known them since college, had been in their wedding, had shared countless dinners and vacations over the years. If anyone would support me through this crisis, I thought it would be them. I was wrong. So, Nick, Mark said over dessert, his tone carrying that particular mix of amusement and condescension I'd been hearing a lot lately. Jennifer and I were talking about Lauren's little speech the other night. Were you? I kept my voice neutral. We think it's great that you two can joke around like that, Jennifer chimed in. So many couples take themselves too seriously. Lauren beamed at them. Exactly. Nick's always been so sensitive about everything. It's nice to see him finally developing a sense of humor about our dynamic. Your dynamic? I asked. You know, Mark laughed, the whole provider and princess thing you've got going. It works for you guys. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Provider and princess? Oh, come on, Nick, Jennifer said, waving her wine glass. We've all known for years that Lauren's the star, and you're the support system. There's nothing wrong with that. Every successful woman needs a man who's willing to step back and let her shine. Step back, I repeated. Right! Mark was warming to his theme now. Like, you handle all the boring stuff, the money, the house, the practical things, and Lauren gets to focus on her career and social life. It's very modern. Lauren was nodding enthusiastically. See? Mark and Jennifer understand. Not every marriage has to be some outdated partnership where both people pretend to be equally important. The words hit me like a physical blow. These people I'd considered my closest friends had been viewing my marriage as some kind of joke for years. They saw me as a supporting character in Lauren's story, a walking wallet with no value beyond my ability to fund her lifestyle. That's an interesting perspective, I said carefully. Tell me, Mark, what exactly do you think I contribute to this relationship? Mark and Jennifer exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with the direct question. Well, Mark said slowly, you're very reliable, dependable. Like a good appliance, Jennifer added with a laugh. Always there when you need him. Lauren giggled. That's perfect. Nick's like a really high-end dishwasher, expensive, but totally worth it for the convenience. The table erupted in laughter. I sat there, watching these three people who claimed to care about me, laughing at a comparison between me and a kitchen appliance. You know what? I said, standing up abruptly. I just remembered I have an early meeting tomorrow. Lauren, you can catch a ride with Mark and Jennifer, right? Nick, don't be dramatic, Lauren said, rolling her eyes. We're just having fun. Oh, I can see that. You're having a blast. I threw $200 on the table, more than enough to cover the entire bill and tip, and walked out of the restaurant. Behind me, I could hear Jennifer saying something about me being too sensitive, followed by more laughter. I sat in my truck in the parking lot for 10 minutes, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles were white. These weren't just casual acquaintances making thoughtless jokes. These were people who had been in my life for over 15 years, People I'd helped through job losses and family crises, people I'd considered family, and they saw me as a joke. My phone buzzed with a text from Mark. "Dude, come back inside. We were just kidding around." I typed back, "Were you kidding when you called Lauren the star and me the support system? Or when Jennifer compared me to an appliance? Or when my wife called me a dishwasher?" There was a long pause before his response. "You're taking this way too seriously, man." "Am I? Let me ask you something, Mark. When's the last time you asked me how I was doing? When's the last time any of you showed interest in my work, my thoughts, my life beyond how it serves Lauren?" Another long pause. Then, "Look, we didn't mean anything by it. You know we care about you. No, you care about what I provide. There's a difference." I turned off my phone and drove home to an empty house. Lauren wouldn't be back for hours. She'd milk this social opportunity for all it was worth, probably painting me as the unreasonable husband who couldn't take a joke. But as I sat in my workshop, surrounded by the tools and projects that represented my real life, I realized something important. I wasn't losing friends tonight. I was finally seeing clearly who my friends actually were. And the list was much shorter than I'd thought. The next morning, I woke up to find Lauren already gone. There was a note on the kitchen counter. "Gone shopping with Jennifer. Don't wait up. We're having a girls' day to recover from your little tantrum last night." A girls' day, right. I checked the GPS tracker I'd discreetly installed on Lauren's car, a perfectly legal device since the car was registered in both our names. She wasn't with Jennifer. She was at the Marriott downtown, the same hotel where she'd been meeting Ethan for months. My phone rang. It was Jennifer. "Nick? I wanted to apologize for last night. Maybe we got a little carried away." "Where's Lauren, Jennifer?" "What do you mean?" "She's right here with me. We're at the mall." The lie came so easily, so smoothly, that I almost admired her technique. "Which mall?" The one downtown." "Why?" "Because Lauren's car is at the Marriott Hotel downtown and has been for the past 2 hours. Silence. "Jennifer, I need you to understand something. I know about the affair. I know about the lies. And I know that you and Mark have been helping to cover for her. Nick, I don't know what you think. I think you've been lying to my face for months. I think you've been helping my wife cheat on me while simultaneously mocking me for being a provider and a support system. I think you've shown me exactly what kind of people you really are. That's not fair. We're your friends. No, you're not. Friends don't humiliate each other. Friends don't lie for each other's spouses. Friends don't laugh when someone they care about is being treated like garbage. We never meant, it doesn't matter what you meant, Jennifer. What matters is what you did. And what you did was choose sides. You chose Lauren's side because her drama is more entertaining than my feelings. I hung up and immediately called Jim Morrison. "Jim, I need you to prepare divorce papers, and I want to accelerate our timeline." "What happened?" "I just discovered that this goes deeper than Lauren and Ethan. Our entire social circle has been complicit in humiliating me. They've been covering for her affair and treating me like a joke. That's rough, Nick. But it might actually help our case. If we can prove that Lauren's been publicly undermining the marriage with the help of mutual friends, it strengthens our argument for emotional cruelty." "Good. Because I'm done playing defense. It's time to go on the attack." "What did you have in mind?" I looked out the window at Mrs. Green, who was pretending to garden while obviously listening to my phone conversation. In a town this size, secrets didn't stay secret for long. And I was about to make sure everyone knew exactly what kind of person Lauren really was. I'm going to give this town something to really talk about. The opportunity came sooner than I expected. That evening, Lauren returned home in an unusually good mood, humming as she walked through the door with several shopping bags that clearly hadn't come from any mall. "How was your day with Jennifer?" I asked from the kitchen, where I was preparing dinner. "Oh, it was wonderful. We had such a good time catching up. That's nice. What did you buy? She held up a bag from Victoria's Secret. Just some new things. A girl needs to feel pretty, you know? New lingerie, purchased after spending the afternoon with her lover. The audacity was almost impressive. I'm sure Ethan will appreciate it, I said casually, not looking up from the stove. The silence that followed was deafening. I could feel Lauren's shock radiating across the room like heat from a fire. What did you say? She asked, her voice carefully controlled. I said I'm sure you'll feel pretty in whatever you bought. No, that's not what you said. I turned to face her. She was pale, her hands clutching the shopping bags like lifelines. Lauren, we need to talk. About what? I walked to the kitchen counter and picked up a manila envelope, not the one Sarah had given me, but a new one I'd prepared myself. I slid it across the counter toward her. About this. With trembling hands, she opened the envelope and pulled out the contents. Bank statements showing hotel charges. Phone records showing hundreds of calls and texts to Ethan. Photographs of them together at various locations around town. Where did you get these? She whispered. Does it matter? The question is, what are we going to do about it? She looked up at me, and for the first time in months, I saw real fear in her eyes. Nick, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain 6 months of lies? Can you explain using our money to fund your affair? Can you explain humiliating me in public while planning to divorce me and take half of everything I've worked for? How do you know about... She stopped herself, realizing she'd just confirmed another piece of the puzzle. About your plan to claim emotional neglect and get a bigger settlement? I know about all of it, Lauren. The secret phone, the conversations with your lawyer, the whole elaborate scheme. She sank into a chair, the shopping bags falling to the floor. What do you want? I want honesty. For once in the past 6 months, I want you to tell me the truth. She was quiet for a long moment, then looked up at me with something that might have been defiance. Fine. Yes, I've been seeing Ethan. Yes, I was planning to divorce you. And yes, I think you're boring and predictable, and I deserve better than being married to someone who thinks building houses is the height of achievement. The words should have hurt, but instead, I felt oddly relieved. Finally, the pretense was over. Thank you, I said. That's the most honest thing you've said to me in years. So what now? Are you going to divorce me? That depends. Are you willing to sign a post-nuptial agreement that protects my business assets and acknowledges your infidelity? She laughed bitterly. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I'll make sure everyone in this town knows exactly what kind of person you are, starting with your parents. Her face went white. Lauren's parents were old-fashioned, religious people who'd never approved of her career-focused lifestyle. The knowledge that their daughter was an adulteress would devastate them and cut off the financial safety net she'd been counting on. You wouldn't try me. We stared at each other across the kitchen, 23 years of marriage reduced to a standoff between two people who no longer recognized each other. I need time to think, she said finally. You have until tomorrow night. After that, I file for divorce and release everything to Jim Morrison for the court proceedings. Once it's in the legal system, it becomes public record. She gathered up her shopping bags and headed for the stairs. At the bottom step, she turned back to me. You know, everyone was right about you. You are just a boring contractor who got lucky. I could have married anyone, and I settled for you. You're right, I said calmly. You could have married anyone. But you married me, and now you're going to learn what that really means. She stormed upstairs, slamming the bedroom door behind her. I heard her on the phone immediately, presumably calling Ethan or her lawyer or both. I finished making dinner, ate alone, and then went to my workshop to make some calls of my own. My first call was to Sarah Mitchell at the country club. Sarah, it's Nick Sullivan. I need a favor. What can I do for you? Lauren's company is planning their annual charity auction next month, right? The one where all the local businesses donate items and services? Yes, it's a big event. Why? I want to make a donation. A big one. That's generous of you. I'm not feeling generous, Sarah. I'm feeling strategic. My second call was to Tom Bradley, who owned the local newspaper and owed me several favors from construction work I'd done on his house. Tom, I need to place an ad in next week's paper. A big one. What kind of ad? A public statement. I'll email you the text tonight. Nick, is everything okay? Everything's perfect, Tom. For the first time in months, everything is exactly as it should be. My final call was to Marty. Boss? Kind of late for a work call. Marty, how would you like to help me teach some people a lesson about respect? I'm listening. Meet me at the office tomorrow morning, early. We have some planning to do. I hung up and looked around my workshop, my sanctuary, the place where I built things instead of tearing them down. Tomorrow, I would start building something new, a life where I was valued for who I was, not what I could provide. And if that meant tearing down a few people who'd forgotten how to treat others with basic human dignity, well, that was just the cost of construction. Outside, I could hear Lauren's voice through the bedroom window, talking rapidly on her phone. She was probably calling in every favor she had, trying to find a way out of the trap she'd built for herself. But there was no way out. Not anymore. The guy who covers dinner was about to show everyone exactly what he was capable of when the bill came due. The next morning, Lauren was gone before I woke up. She'd left another note. Staying at Jennifer's until we figure this out. I almost laughed. Even now, she was lying. I checked the GPS tracker. Her car was at Ethan's apartment complex across town. At 8 a.m. sharp, I met Marty at my company's office. He brought coffee and a grim smile. So, boss, what's the plan? I spread out a series of documents across my desk. First, we're going to review every contract, every project, every business relationship we have in this town. Looking for what? Leverage. See, Marty, I've been thinking about this all wrong. I've been focused on Lauren and Ethan as individuals, but they're not operating in a vacuum. They're part of a whole ecosystem of people who've decided that I'm a joke, that I'm just a walking ATM who should be grateful for whatever scraps of respect they throw my way. I pointed to a list of names I'd compiled. Mark Walsh works for the city planning department. Every major construction project in this town has to go through his office. Jennifer Walsh runs the social media for half the businesses on Main Street. Ethan's PR firm handles marketing for the country club, the hospital, and 3 of the biggest employers in town. And I've done construction work for all of those places. I know their secrets, the code violations they asked me to hide, the corners they wanted me to cut, the under-the-table deals they offered me. Marty whistled low. That's playing hardball, boss. They started this game, Marty. They decided that humiliating me was entertainment, that my feelings didn't matter, that I was just a resource to be exploited. Now they get to learn what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you. My phone buzzed with a text from Lauren. We need to talk. Meet me at Murphy's bar at noon. I showed the message to Marty. She wants to meet at Murphy's. Neutral ground. You going? Oh, I'm going, but not alone. At 11:30, I walked into Murphy's bar with Marty, Sarah Mitchell, and Mrs. Green, who had been delighted to be included in what she called the most exciting thing to happen in this neighborhood in decades. Lauren was already there, sitting in a booth with Ethan and, surprisingly, Mark Walsh. They looked up as our group entered, their expressions ranging from confused to alarmed. Nick, Lauren said, standing up, I said we needed to talk. I didn't say you should bring an audience. These are my friends, I replied, taking a seat at the bar so I could face their booth. You remember friends, don't you? People who actually care about your well-being? Ethan stood up, trying to take control of the situation. Look, Nick, we're all adults here. I'm sure we can work something out that's reasonable for everyone. Reasonable? I laughed. Ethan, you've been sleeping with my wife for 6 months while using my money to pay for your dates. You helped her humiliate me in public as part of a plan to defraud me in a divorce proceeding. What exactly do you think would be reasonable? Mark cleared his throat. Nick, maybe we should all calm down. Mark, I interrupted. How many building permits have I helped you rush through over the years? How many times have I looked the other way when your department's inspections were, shall we say, less than thorough? His face went pale. That has nothing to do with this. Doesn't it? See, I've been thinking about all the ways this town is connected, all the favors and relationships and little compromises that keep everything running smoothly. And I've realized something interesting. I stood up and walked over to their booth. I'm not just the guy who covers dinner. I'm the guy who built half this town. I know where all the bodies are buried, sometimes literally, in the case of that foundation work we did for the hospital edition. Are you threatening us? Ethan asked. I'm educating you. Just like I educated you the other night. See, you all made a fundamental miscalculation. You assumed that because I'm quiet and hardworking and don't make a fuss, I'm weak. You assumed that because I love my wife and try to make her happy, I'm a pushover. I pulled out my phone and showed them a photo. This is the front page of tomorrow's newspaper. Tom Bradley was kind enough to give me a preview. The headline read, Local businessman exposes affair, calls for community accountability. Below it was a full-page ad I'd purchased, detailing Lauren and Ethan's affair, complete with photos and a payee timeline. But more than that, it was a manifesto about respect, dignity, and the way this community had failed to hold people accountable for their actions. Lauren gasped, You can't do this. This is private. Nothing about this has been private, Lauren. You made sure of that when you decided to humiliate me at the country club. You made it public when you involved our friends in covering for your lies. You made it community business when you decided that my reputation and feelings were acceptable casualties in your little game. This will ruin me, Ethan said, his voice barely a whisper. Yes, it will. Your clients don't like scandals, especially ones that involve defrauding a spouse. Most of them are family businesses with traditional values. They're not going to want to be associated with someone who helps married women plan elaborate schemes to cheat their husbands. I turned to Mark. And you, Mark, are going to find that a lot of contractors in this town remember every time you asked them to bend the rules. When this story comes out, people are going to start asking questions about how business really gets done in the planning department. You're destroying all of us, Lauren said, tears streaming down her face. No, Lauren. You destroyed yourselves. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. I walked back to the bar where my real friends were waiting. The funny thing is, you all could have avoided this. If you just treated me with basic human respect. If you just acknowledged that I'm a person with feelings, not just a resource to be exploited. Sarah spoke up from her bar stool. Nick's been nothing but kind and generous to everyone in this town. You people should be ashamed of yourselves. Mrs. Green nodded vigorously. I've been watching this neighborhood for 40 years, and I've never seen such disgraceful behavior. In my day, we knew how to treat our neighbors with respect. This is insane, Mark said, standing up. You can't destroy people's lives over a personal dispute. Marty laughed. Personal dispute? You mean like when you all decided it was funny to humiliate Nick in public? Or when you helped his wife cover up an affair? That kind of personal dispute? I looked at Lauren one last time. You know what the saddest part is? I would have given you anything. If you'd just been honest with me, if you'd just told me you were unhappy, we could have worked something out. We could have gotten counseling or separated amicably or found some way to end this with dignity. Nick, please. But instead, you chose to lie, cheat, steal, and humiliate me. You chose to involve our friends in your deception. You chose to make me a laughingstock in my own community. So now, you get to live with the consequences of those choices. I headed for the door, my friends following behind me. The newspaper hits the stands at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I suggest you use the time between now and then to figure out how you're going to explain this to your families. As we walked out into the afternoon sunshine, I felt lighter than I had in months. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I was in control of my own story. "So, what now, boss?" Marty asked. "Now we wait and see who in this town has the courage to stand up and do the right thing, and we find out who our real friends actually are." Mrs. Green patted my arm. "You did the right thing, dear. Sometimes people need to face consequences for their actions." Sarah nodded. "That was the bravest thing I've ever seen. Most people would have just taken it quietly." "I'm not most people," I said. "I'm the guy who covers dinner. And I just served up a meal they'll never forget." Behind us, through the window of Murphy's bar, I could see Lauren, Ethan, and Mark huddled together in frantic conversation. They were probably calling lawyers, trying to find some way to stop the story from running, but it was too late for that. The truth was coming out, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. Tomorrow, this whole town would know exactly what kind of people they really were. And I would finally get the respect I'd been denied for so long, not because I demanded it, but because I'd earned it. The guy who covers dinner had just served his final meal.